everybody, it's Rolanda Sumner, CEO and founder of Life After Service Transitional Coaching. Today we have the wonderful DeAndria Hardy of the BattleBetty Foundation. But before we get started, I have a few announcements. One, as always, make sure you join our exclusive Facebook group. It's just for women veteran entrepreneurs or women veterans who aspire to be small business owners. And it's called Women Veteran Small Business Group. 2, make sure you visit my website at lifeafterservice.com. And 3, stay tuned, and we're going to get started with DeAndria Hardy. Hi, DeAndria. How are you?
Hi, Rolanda. How are you doing?
Good. Hold on. Why don't you start and tell us about your military career?
All right. Well, I am a United States Marine Corps veteran, so, the few of the... So, yeah, so I entered the service in the summer of 2009, so much to the dismay of my mom. So one spring, after being at the University of Tennessee for a few years, I went to a career fair, met a Marine Corps recruiter, Sergeant Criddle, and I went to boot camp in the summer. So I enlisted as a ammunition technician, and I served with Detachment 1 down in Georgia. So I went in as a reserve Marine because the plan was always to become an officer. That didn't quite happen, but I absolutely loved my time as enlisted Marine. So I deployed in the summer of 2012. I deployed as an ammunition tech there to West Africa as part of a joint operation. Unfortunately, when I got back, I got, really, really sick. So I tried to move to stay in the Marine Corps, do something a little less strenuous. So I moved over to data networking. After about a year of trying to duck and dodge Uncle Sam, he peacefully dismissed me with a medical discharge. So in 2014, I was officially discharged from the service under an honorable discharge. So then I, worked for a little bit in the civilian sector, kind of trying to use that data networking thing before kind of realizing that my passion was for nonprofits and that's Betty.
So first of all, I'm not a Marine. I'm Army. However, I think women Marines are. I know. You guys are all right. But I think women Marines are amazing because they're fewer of you than the rest of us.
Yes.
They're much tougher on you than the rest of us.
Yeah.
And
it takes a very strange woman to decide to join the Marine Corps. So
I wouldn't even say strange. I mean, all the women Marines I met were, ultra feminine, activists. Most of them were activists in some way.
You kind of have to be because it's I say strange, but maybe that's not the right word. But it takes maybe gumption's a little more the word. It's like you kind of want to do this thing where I think in my ammunition unit, I think we maybe were like 120, maybe 130 strong, and there were only 5 women. So going in, you have to be, hey, I'm going to do this rough and tumble thing, but I'm and hear me roar. And if you don't, I'm going to make you recognize that I'm just as strong and just as powerful as you in this uniform and out. So it does take a special lady to. It's
a special form of steel to go through that. I couldn't do it. Somebody was like, "Oh, why didn't you join the Marines?" I'm like, "Cause I want to live." I can't do that. I'm sorry. So I want to thank you for your service.
Thank you. I mean, it's amazing. I think any woman that joins the service should be committed on that kind of determination and will to do it. So,
and we take it for granted.
Once you're out.
You're like, well, it was just a job, and everybody's like, no, it's more.
Yeah.
So tell me how you got into nonprofit, because it does seem like it's a departure from data computers, data networking. Yeah, it seems like it's just a departure. How did that happen?
Okay, so as I said, once I moved into that after the service, so I was a reserve Marine. So kind of once I realized that it wasn't going to be something I could transfer over, go active duty and turn into a career, I went back to school, finished my degree, got an engineering degree. But I was, around that time, I started having some of those kind of mental health things that come along with service. So I was starting to kind of go out on short-term disability things, and then I started having a lot of physical complications. So some of the anxiety and things with the mental health, and then like back pains and migraines and, hip issues and just all kinds of things going on. And eventually it kind of led to me losing my job. I worked at Verizon with tech support there. So once I lost that job, I was kind of just, in and around my home. And that was in, say, maybe late 16, late 17. And unfortunately, my baby sister passed away in early of 2017. She was in a car accident. So we moved back to South Carolina I lived in Wilmington at the time. And so when I came back to South Carolina, I had no job. I had no apartment. Everything I had was kind of in my car because all the stuff that I've been going through, it kind of overwhelmed me at a point. And then my sister passed. So I kind of had everything in my car, moving back here, thinking, okay, this would be the, perfect time to say, let's get it together. Because my sister was kind of everything that I want to be, even though she was younger than me. She was, a real kind of go-getter type of person. And I was, this would be the prime time to, let's get it together. I can do this, and kind of live on and, let's make it work. But I went to like a lot of nonprofits and things that are for veterans, but didn't actually find a whole lot of help, which was very disheartening. They were veteran inclusive, but not really specific programs for female vets. So I would go and they're like, oh, well, yeah, we help veterans, but we don't really have something that would fit my need. But eventually, and very, very luckily, I got connected with the United Way through their AmeriCorps program, and they have been absolutely fantastic with me. So eventually I, with another nonprofit called Service Dogs for Vets, got my service dog. And so began to kind of working with those two nonprofits, saw that there is a lot of phenomenal work being done with nonprofits, and they helped me a lot. And I was like, because I had such a difficulty, I would love to be able to step in that gap for another female vet that may, needed help, and she's looking around here and can't find it. And over the last 2 years with the United Way, I've kind of learned a lot, and, how the nonprofit kind of inner workings go, and, have gotten a lot of help with trying to get started. So it's kind of where it came from.
Great. How long has BattleBetty been assisting the community, the women veteran community?
We officially founded in August of 2018. Been steadily working there, and it's kind of just actually me and my mom right now. So doing homeless outreach. We've done a couple of like agency fairs. So we're doing like the small things, so care packages and snacks and things like that. We're launching our first big initiative next month. So the first Wednesday of June, and it's going to be every first and third Wednesday. So we're offering peer support therapy. So it's going to be in a group setting. So we lots of legwork, but we have a partnership with an organization called Project Josiah. Mm-hmm. So we're partner with them, and we're going to offer group therapy. So it's going to be kind of a, let's say, Vegas style. So what happens there stays there. Yeah. Safe space for, women to come talk, because that was one of the things I missed the most about the service, even though there were only like 5 of us. But when those 5 of us,
it was that connection,
mm-hmm.
It's such a paradox, because on one end they kind of teach us to hate each other, and on the other end, yes. you crave to see another female in uniform, and when you're not. When you're not battling over leadership or what have you, you're like, I just want to have a girlfriend because these guys stink and they get on my nerves.
And I would notice it too. Like, you ever go to a veteran event and it's like a bunch of guys there, and you spot the one woman in the corner, you're like, oh my God, another female vet, and you migrate over, and it's just like the 2 of you there. But so we're going to start doing that. So BattleBetty as a whole, we're going to have kind of a 3-point thing going on. So we're going to have transitional housing to help with homeless female veterans, because unfortunately our country is kind of forgotten about female veterans when it comes to homelessness services. Yes. We're going to have a community wellness program, so that's where their peer support therapy is going to come in. We're going to try to do like a community garden and, sponsored outings once a month. And we're also going to do like some case management, but we're going to do our big kickoff with the peer support program next month. And we're going to be meeting at First Baptist Church. So right here in central downtown Spartanburg on the first and third Wednesdays every month. So
what time should people join you?
It's going to be from 6 to 7. And that's just starting out. What we're really hoping is that once people realize we're there and that women vets have a place to go, that it's going to grow enough that we can offer it in more places in and around the city and hopefully expand to, maybe down in Union and in Greenville as well.
That's amazing. That's awesome. It seems like you're doing so much in the last year. So how can we help? How can we participate? How can we help you get the word out?
Getting the word out is a big deal because we are small and it's mostly, I tell people it's a 2.5 woman operation, me, my mom, and my lady service dog. So we're going to hit the pavement. But getting the word out, we are on social media. So, like our Facebook page, our Instagram page, follow us on LinkedIn. If you see posts about our events, please share it. Dollars, we kind of hate to say it, but I've had to get comfortable very fast with the idea of kind of getting over my anxiety and like telling people I need money, because the reality is as noble as the effort is, effort doesn't run without money. It needs to make some money. When it comes to providing services, we recently, when we did, maybe it was the beginning of May, we did a homeless outreach agency fair. And so we bought bags, we bought snacks, we, gave out like gift cards. We did all this stuff, and it was, just kind of on our dime, which we don't mind, but it's like we do stuff and that kind of takes, fundraising and things to do. So we have a GoFundMe page, and it's under BattleBetty, so people can donate there. As well as if there are any women out there, because I love to work with other women, like my board is all female. Any women that know anything about website design, I have a website that I created myself, but it runs slowly. So if there's anybody that knows anything about that, that would be fantastic. So I think
I know someone who does website design, Amanda Bootchamp. She's with Sister Veterans.
Yes.
And she's starting to ramp up her business. Okay. So it's called Gaia. But either way, when this is all said and done, I'll email you her information. I'll do an introduction between you two, because she's a woman veteran. Okay. She's a badass and super smart.
Aren't we all?
But she does web design. Okay. So I think you guys might actually be able to work together. I think you guys will like working together.
Yeah.
So let's have some real talk. Oh, sorry. Let's have some real talk about the things you see when you're working with the women veteran community. Tell me some things that you were kind of shocked to see when you first started the nonprofit.
Mostly just the complete lack of awareness by the general public. Mm-hmm. I don't know. It kind of broke my heart. It's when we think about veteran services in this country, unfortunately, the idea of a veteran looks like a big, tall, white guy with a crew and a lot of muscles. And that's just not the case. They don't even think about like a tiny white lady as a veteran. Like they just kind of erase females in the veteran landscape. But the reality is, according to VA, women veterans are the fastest growing population among the veteran cohort. And it's like, well, we've been around, we've been serving since serving was a thing. And they've kind of forgotten about us when it comes to services. And that's with housing services, that's with mental health services, things
physical health, women's health services is health.
Like all
ridiculous.
Of it. It is. There was, maybe it was last month, there was a congressional hearing centered around women veterans. Only 6 congressmen people showed up? 6 congresspeople. All those congressmen we have only 6 showed up. That's how big of a problem we have. And so when I'm talking to, you know, female vets, which is also very hard because we don't self-identify like men do. Like you see a guy.
Yeah, and they have it like on tattoos and their forehead, and they got hats and jackets and t-shirts.
It's a lot more subtle. And so that's been another big problem, is just seeking out and finding others of us, because we don't self-identify as readily. So unfortunately, when it comes to services, although they're needed, because we aren't as obvious to, you know, the people in charge, they don't think of us. So it's kind of trying to pull those numbers back and like, hey, you know, we're here, and, you know, there are women that are absolutely terrified to stay in, you know, housing that's offered for veterans because they're not secure places. I read one report that talks about, and it was an independent study shown about a young lady who was, you know, had been sexually assaulted in the military. And the place that was offered didn't even have proper securing locks on the doors. So here's a homeless woman who's saying, I'm trying to get it back together. I'm trying to do all the things necessary to pull myself up.
I can't stay here because it's not safe
at night because I can't lock my door. You know, that's terrifying.
Yeah.
And places that are co-ed don't have, you know, proper lights, don't have proper security. God forbid if you're a woman with children, there's so many rules on you can't have but one kid, or your kid can't be but so old, or you can't
have boys over the age of 13. Like, I was really shocked to hear like a lot of homeless shelters won't take a family with a boy who's over 13. I'm like, he's a baby still. He's 14 and he's 13 years old. Like, he's not old enough. You know, like, he can't even drink yet. Come on now.
And some of them, if they take them, which is even scarier. So if you're already in a situation where you're having to, you know, finally dig down, you've gotten to the place where you're ready to accept help, you go to a shelter, and say you have your, you know, 13-year-old son, and they say, hey, we'll take you guys, but mom has to stay over here, and my 13-year-old son has to go on the side with a bunch of grown men. That's a no-go. So
yeah, and they're going to be bullied, and they're scared, and Lord knows what's going to happen to them while they're over there.
Yeah, so you're potentially traumatizing a child in an already very scary situation because he doesn't have stable housing. So those have been some of the scariest things to think of, that, you know, they don't look at the total package of what it means to be a female veteran in those situations. So, and there's just so much data out there. And the more I looked and, you know, found, sadly, the less I found on information about female veterans. I think on the VA site for data and statistics says there's around 44,000 women veterans in South Carolina. You know how many organizations there are that are specific for female veteran services?
I just know 2. Exactly. You and Sister Veterans.
And Sister Veterans. Not a whole lot. So it's like, really? There are 44,000 of us, and no one thought that, like, hey, we should probably get some services that are specific to them, or even just a female stand down that says, hey, we're going to look at women's specific health and breast health, because there are a lot of service women that deployed to the Middle East came back with reproductive health issues. And it's
and oh my gosh, like, you're in the military and all of a sudden you find out you can't have babies, or I know so many women veterans who are like, I can't have kids. Like, my sisters got 5, my other sisters got 25, and I can't have any. And it makes you think, like, what's going on, where there is a population of women veterans who have reproductive issues.
Reproductive issues. And like, people are always stunned now, because I'm in my 30s, like, you don't have kids? No. And you're like, well, maybe, you know, life just, that wasn't a blessing that I, you know, have had. But it's, you know, those are things. I
mean, see, you don't have to have kids though. Like, it's 2019.
That's something that's something that I do. I do want children, and it's, those things are. It's like, well, reproductive health, I've had issues with that, and it's like, well, there are a lot of service women that have had issues with reproductive health. How much of that is a product of our service? You know, that we have to struggle with those things, and there's no thought going into, like, what do we do with our service women that come back, you know, afterwards? So there are a lot of services and groups and things for our male veterans, and there's nothing wrong with that. I just think that there should be.
We just don't have enough. We just don't have enough. Like, it's hard to go to the VA and talk about any feminine issues because they kind of look at you like, oh, poor you, and you're not looking for sympathy. You're looking for compassion and someone to actually help you address it. And then it's like, well, I have. The VA is my health insurance. The TRICARE is my health insurance. I retired out. But why would you send me to a clinic that is going to cost me $80 to just walk into? You're supposed to take care of me. I served, and now I have this health insurance, so why can't you use it? It's interesting.
There's a lot of frustration that goes into it. And that's, one of the things that I'm hoping with, as part of our, kind of the flow back to the peer support, that I would like when women get together and say, hey, these are some of the things that are going on, some of the frustrations we have. And that as we, kind of grow and take those things, kind of like there's an organization called Women's Veteran Interactive. So they did kind of something similar. When they got their women together and start seeing all these things, they were able to say, hey, you know what, we have the group of women, and so we can tell you that these things are going on, so now you can't just ignore us and say, okay, we know y'all out there and y'all saying this. But
and I've seen them online. It doesn't the founder go to Congress often, and she's board members to several organizations
they're trying now, but it's very slow going, and it's still very sad that it's 2019. The country has been at war since, a little after 9/11. And it's like, we're just now realizing that, the role that women veterans have played in that, and even long before then, but especially now, we've had so many women, joining, from colleges, and instead of going to college, joining, and then, that per service thing, because we had a large influx of women joining the military post 9/11, and we just never really did anything to increase those services when that increase happened. So,
well, I noticed just starting this business that there's a real linear, narrow look about what women veterans want when we get out the military. And I've been told several times, well, women veterans don't want to start their own business. They just need a job. And I usually just don't say anything because I'm like, okay, Rolanda, you have to choose your battles. You can have this argument with some man who's never served in his life. It's usually
Isn't that always the case? Some guy who
it's like you've never served a second in your life. Your granddaddy served, but you're going to tell me, a woman veteran who has served, what women veterans want.
What I want out of my life.
Right? Like, you just want a job. Like,
no, not really.
And it's funny because that's the common misconception amongst the population. Like, oh, you guys just want to work. Well, guess what? We want the same things you want.
No,
we probably want many of those things more because we have people we get our 214 and then somebody's telling us what we want. you want you want a job. You want to work for somebody else and have to explain that you're having a mental health breakdown that day.
And that's one of the positives about entrepreneurship that's so great for veterans and women veterans specifically. When you're having those days, if you own the business and you have that group of support around you, if you're having those days and you need that break, you need to take that second, you have a team that works with you, which a regular 9-to-5 just doesn't work. Like it just doesn't. Like with the United Way, that nonprofit, I have my service dog there. They are very gracious with me. I have sheltered workspace, and some days I can't do it, and they're okay with that because they know. And I don't know if it's the same at all United Ways, but literally, with the exception of, I think we have 3. All of the employees are female, so. There's like 3 lonely guys there. And so when something happens, they get it. So they're like, okay, we understand, take care of yourself, which I don't think you a male dominated office space. And so it's like, well, entrepreneurship works for a lot of veterans because you get that freedom to still have accomplishments, to still own your business, but still also take care of yourself when the time is needed.
I think I used to be really angry with corporate America about how they dealt with veterans and their issues, because you want to hire a veteran, but you don't really want to help them through their issues. You want somebody who's fresh out the military, but you don't really want to pay them what they're worth. You don't want to take the time to understand what they're bringing to the table and help them translate that so you can pay them what they're worth. And you don't want to deal with them when they're having a PTSD day and they just can't think. However, I had to change my thought process. We're still the 1%.
Yeah.
And women veterans are 19% of that 1%. We're like a tiny percentage. So if you think of it that way, at the end of the day, most people really probably haven't worked with the veteran.
Yeah.
Or they haven't worked with the veteran who has self-identified and been open and said, I have a problem. Because veterans, we're prideful. We're just not going to, we suck it up and drive on. We're not going to tell you like, look, I'm having a bad day. Or this week is just a really bad week. And so they don't know, like they have to worry about the bottom line. So those organizations that try to make a way for veterans, I commend them. But I stopped being mad at organizations that don't know. Like you don't know any better. You don't know, you know what other people told you, but you don't know enough to be able to get in the weeds. Just choose 3 to 5 employees and get in the weeds with them for like 2 or 3 years and find what works.
I actually went through the same thing, because it's like you hire vets and you put that we're a veteran friendly organization, so you get that pat on the back from the community, like, yeah, look at us hiring.
That tax break.
Aren't we great? And it's like, but you don't get it. You don't have those services, and you need to take time. And unless you have a veteran that's part of the big corporate leadership there that can expertise saying, hey, okay, these are some type of things we need to have as part of our corporate culture, then like you said, it just gets kind of lost in the fray there. I work for a company. I work for a company now that is quite veteran friendly. Like, they really do try to help. They try to help veterans get jobs. And then if you're a veteran working for the company, my first line leader is really good. So if I'm off, she knows. I don't have to explain it to her. She's like, okay, I get it. What can I do to help? And then the organization as a whole really tries to work with us, really tries to remember, like, okay, you may not self-identify, but once we know, what can we do to help and stuff. So, but it's rare. It's really rare to find a company, especially a Fortune 500 or a big organization. Even if their CEO is a veteran, he's already flipped the switch off. He's figured out how to acclimate, how to work it, and
be the corporate giant, as opposed to trying to, like, it's almost like he's forgotten about the transition. So, but we want businesses, we want help. I love what you're doing out in the community. And I'll have to have you on as time goes on and you get bigger.
Absolutely. And can I make a little plug here? It's not it's about BattleBetty, but we're talking about entrepreneurship and things. So another organization that really helped me out was the Entrepreneurial Boot Camp for Veterans with Disabilities. They were fantastic with helping us get running. So it's the EBV.
I went to the sister thing, VWise.
They have a women's version, but I think VWise, if I'm not mistaken, is only like a couple of days.
It is. It's a serious. I went to VWise. It's 3 days, and it's like from the time you show up to the time you end. But I did hear EBV was 9 days, and it's like a graduate degree level.
It's fantastic. Yeah, it is intense, but it is so worth it. So I actually went to EBV Yukon with Mike Zakia. So as a retired lieutenant colonel from the Marine Corps. And so he flew me and Liberty out to Hartford, Connecticut. And for 9 straight days, it's you wake up, you go to breakfast, you're in class. It is, they call it a boot camp for a reason, but it is so much good knowledge to help you get started and know where to go, and learning all things about like profit and loss and how to make connections and like all those things you need to know to be successful as a veteran who kind of functions in a mental health space, but how to make it work in a entrepreneur space as well, and they were phenomenal. And even still now, like, I get emails from, her name is Megan, and she's fantastic. Like, hey guys, we're just checking in. Do you guys need any help from us? So it's a fantastic program. If you have other vets out there, tell them, look it up. They offer, I think there's 10 universities that are part of that system. So like in Florida and Syracuse and Cornell and UConn. So you can find them. There's some that are like the one that I went to at UConn, that it tends to have a few more women than the average. And then you have ones that are specific to hospitality industry. So they're fantastic if you want to, look at that. So yeah.
I'll definitely put a link below. Toya Moore from
that's my star.
on the go. She went to EBV, and she was telling me about all of the different just all of the different things she walked away with, like grant opportunities.
Yeah.
Listen, I don't care what anybody says, people will say there aren't grants for businesses, and that's not true.
No.
You just have to, you got to work for it.
Kind of dig for it. And it's like one of those things, the information's out there, but you kind of got to know somebody who already knows, because sometimes a Google search ain't your...
No, I've tried the Google search.
I learned that the hard way. Like,
yes. I'm like, I can't find them.
So they give a lot of really good, very specific information that was really, really helpful. So
great. So how can we find you?
How can you find us? So on Facebook, on Instagram, it's BattleBetty FDN, or you can just BattleBetty Foundation will come up. On LinkedIn, it's the BattleBetty Foundation. So you can look us up there. We have a really fantastic, wonderful red and blue logo with our two ladies back to back there. You can find us at #NeverBattleAlone, because we want our women veterans to know that no matter what you're going through, whether it's homelessness, whether you got your joys, whether you got your pains, you're not alone anymore. We're here, and we want to be there for you. So you can find us there. And if you're feeling, whether it's jingling or whether it's folding, and you want to give a little money, you can find us on GoFundMe as well at BattleBetty. Awesome.
So you guys make sure you follow DeAndria on BattleBetty. She's going to grow. She's going to serve our community, and she needs your help. And if you like this episode and the previous episodes that I have posted, make sure you follow and share on Facebook, on all your social media, on your newsletters, on LinkedIn. Just share the episode so we can get as many people to know DeAndria Hardy and all of her good work.
Yes, spread the word, people.
Yes, share this episode. Thank you so much. So I appreciate you coming on. Thank you. We're going to have to do this again once you grow a little bit more, and you could tell us some lessons learned and how else we can help you.
Well, thank you. It was a pleasure talking to you.
You too.